Well, you know that this video is going to make a lot of people upset, but as you know, on this channel, we don't care because we speak about the issues that churches want to run away from. And what else do? We take the devil head on and punch him right in between the chops. Now, as you see there on the thumbnail, these are some people that profess to be those of faith. They're politicians. Tim Scott, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Mike Johnson, J.D. Vance, and there's many others, and Marco Rubio. You'll hear them talk about faith, Jesus Christ, being Christians, and things like that. Marjorie Taylor Greene talks about she's a Christian nationalist. But you know who else is? Mike, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. So these people, they walk around and say that they're ambassadors basically for the body of Christ, that they're believers. And what has happened is that these types of people has done more type of damage within the church realm for the name of Christ than any other time that we have right now in modern history. These nationalists is what we call them, Christian nationalists. And it's a hard definition in a way to kind of explain it, but I guess the simple way to explain the nationalism is those that believe that Christianity should be in the facet of every realm of government, throughout every area and everything. No more throw out the separation of church and state, all of that. And these people act like they're Christian. And that's the question. Are they Christian or are they phonies? Based upon the evidence. And I'm going to probably have to do a new video. I made a video a couple years ago. Evidence, I gave the evidence to prove if you are a Christian or not based upon the scriptures. We're going to revisit that. Because based upon the evidence, if you had to go to trial and was called for jury duty and had to go to trial and have these people and you could set them and they're going to be convicted of being guilty of serving the Lord, or would they be guilty of being frauds? And I say to you today that all of these people that are politicians that profess to be Christian like that, they will be found not guilty because they don't have any evidence of the fruits of the Spirit, that evidence that they really, truly love the Lord. And why? As I argue my case, well, we know that Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's a hate-filled woman. She's been in the news again as usual. She's disrespectful. She's hateful. And you can see the wickedness within her heart. And unfortunately, Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and things, supposed to be a great man of faith and all of these things, but he conspired to overthrow the 2020 election. So he is a schemer, he's a liar, and he sits there and acts like he's this man of great faith, along with Tim Scott, as he always gives us the sob story about, I'm the African-American guy that, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and didn't have much and got out of poverty and this and that. Oh, give me a break. A lot of us has pulled ourselves up and the Lord has gotten us out of tough times and situations, so we don't continue to go on to the sob story, because that's all he had when he was running anyway. It's the sob story. No types of policies, no types of anything to make anyone's lives better. And that's my other argument of the point. If they are so-called Christians, love people so much, and concerned about people so much, let's start off with Marco Rubio, for example, the Cuban American or so. You know what? Look at him. He doesn't even give a darn about the Cuban people. Here he is. He's in the state of Florida. Cuba's 80 plus miles away. I've been to Cuba in 2017 when them people were talking and we were out there and they were begging. They were so happy that we were starting to have a relationship again with the United States and was begging that embargo would be lifted and the suffering, and that's to see all of that. And here this man, he professes to be a man of faith and this and that, but he rather cut these people off. Go with the old oligarchs of the people in Florida. Some of them are just, cozying up to the old guard, basically. It's a complex thing, but it can be fixed. Why do you treat the people, if you call yourself a believer like that, you're a Cuban American, you're a Cuban heritage, and for you to sit there and just abandon these people, don't bring up anything to try to make relations right so that these people can live some type of life in decency. I've seen it firsthand and things, and the Cuban people are a beautiful people. And people like Marco Rubio is only out for himself and don't give a darn about anybody else. And then we go on over to those, the Tim Scotts and J.D. Vances and all of them. And guess what they all have in common? Mike Johnson, J.D. Vance. And when you name any of these politicians that we're going to label them Christian nationalists, because that's what they are, because they're involved in they won't acknowledge, for one, all of them, but won't accept the results of the upcoming election for this year. They can't give an answer because they're all bowing down to the feet of we know who. So, because they could try to get the VP position. That's what they want. And you see, if you're a Christian, why are you so wrapped up in this world in such a way that you throw out your integrity, throw out your morals, throw out the 10 commandments, because the 9th commandment says don't bear false witness. And what do? These folks like this, the ones that's on the thumbnail, and many, many more. There's dozens and dozens more of them that profess to be Christian. They are bearing false witness. They are deliberately standing at microphones, podiums, press conferences, you name it, lying. Lying on people, lying on situations, lying, knowing that that's not the truth. They had a different story. J.D. Vance, before he even ran for the Senate here in the state of Ohio, he had a whole different story before then, and he flipped it just so he can get elected. Tim Scott, different story. Now it's like, he's just he won't answer anything. He's trying to do the reverse psychology, all because he wants to be a VP. And all of them. And then in the chaos, and they're working together, and the chaos, this nationalism has infiltrated all the way up to the highest court in the land, Supreme Court. Now, I don't know if Justice Alito and all of, I don't know if the man's a Christian or not, or whatever, but he blames his wife for the flag being upside down, as some of you may not know, or may know, where that represented that the election was stolen, and all of that, this conspiracy stuff. And as a Christian, any type of decency, we know back in 2020, for example, 2000, when Al Gore lost only by a few hundred votes, went to the Supreme Court, people wanted him to stand up and fight for everything. Fight for this. No. You know what? Well, for the decency, and one thing that he did, just because he didn't want the chaos. He just wanted things to go forward and not have chaos in America. And he went ahead and didn't fight that and things. But here you have Christians fighting for a lie. And it made me think back when I wasn't even a minister yet. I was a young guy as the custodian of the church. And it was like when Moses was there under Pharaoh and getting to see a lot of things. It kind of reminded me of that, because I got to see a whole lot of things behind the scenes. I got to see a lot of things. And one thing I got to see was ministers around the city, pastors around the city, how people conducted themselves and all of these things. And I remember there was a pastor. And when I became a minister, I actually spoke at this man's church. And it was a small church, but he was looking for a larger church and things. And he ended up getting a job, basically, based upon a church had hired him they voted for him to be a pastor. And before he was going to be installed as a pastor, they found out that he had been married 4 times. And I guess he wasn't truthful on the application. when the time came. And they pulled that offer back. And I remember he was upset because I remember my pastor talking about that with some other ministers and stuff. And I just happened to be around. And he was upset, wanting to take them to court because he felt like, no, I should be pastor. You can't do that. And my pastor told him to leave it alone and things. But he wanted to still be pastor after being deceptive like that and being married 4 times and want to be a leader like that. And see, this is where these people are. There's so many people, and even the false teachers and so-called prophets and all of these people on YouTube, they're so deceived that they want to go forward in any kind of way. They have they know they're lying. They know that they're deceiving people. They know these things. And they want to continue to march forward and act like, hey, you won't, there's nothing wrong. You won't catch me. You don't know what I'm up to or this and that. But you know what? Those of us that are seasoned in the faith, those of us that study the word, those of us that know the Lord, we know that they're liars. We know that they're frauds. And we know what they're up to. So all of these little politicians that profess the name, if you want to be a politician, fine. That's fine. Be a politician, but take the Lord's name out your mouth. That's as far as I'm concerned. Don't continue to utilize the name and talk about faith and how you care about people and all of these things when you don't give a darn about people. And let me make one more point. If they cared about people so much, the Marco Rubios and all of these people that act like that they love the Lord and that they're concerned about people and things, that they don't have any kind of compassion, no anything. As we're keeping it on a political, spiritual level. But let's talk about, for example, you hear about the Social Security thing. We know it's an easy fix. It's an easy fix. Raise it. We already know the cap and all of that, how to fix it. They want to keep trying to say, well, we want to raise the age, which we know is a pay cut if you do that. Raise the age to 70. I work with somebody right now, a lady that's 70 that worked in construction because her father owned construction business when she was a younger lady and been in there, and she's got 2 hip replacements. And when she started with me years ago, she had 2 knee replacements. So she walked, bold, she's still working because she just wants to have something to do. But she's broke down. And they want to say, well, forget about it. Let's disband the Department of Education. People don't need to go to college. We don't do that. Go to trade school, this and that. Now, trade school is good for some people. But some of the trade jobs are rough jobs and difficult jobs. And jobs that you may not be able to really do as well when you hit 70. So being on your knees, doing a lot of bending, stooping, and all of the things at that age, you break down as you get older. I know I've been doing nights 20 plus years. I'm broken down from where I was in the beginning of this. So for them to sit there and to have that kind of mindset, no, you just work so much longer because we so concerned about those that's got the money and we don't want to tax them in any kind of way or whatever, and we want you to work harder and longer because we're sitting up here at the Capitol with our nice cushy pensions and salaries, and most of them are millionaires and everything, and want the regular people to suffer. So these folks, they're not Christian. There's no evidence to convict them of being a Christian. These folks are frauds, and the devil has used the nationalism. He's used the phony YouTube preachers. He's used the phony YouTube prophets and all of these types of people to shame the church, to make the church look disgraceful, make Christianity look disgraceful, and make Jesus look like a guy, a man that has no compassion and no concern or love for others. Well, you know what? That's a lie from the devil, from the pits of hell. Because Jesus is loving, kind, compassionate, and he loves you and I to death. And the last thing he will want is to see people suffer at the hands of those up from the top. And we're going to continue to call these types of people out that are walking around masquerading as frauds and as Christians. And for those of you that say, oh, you're angry, you say, no, I'm not angry. I'm angry at a righteous anger, but I'm fired up for the Lord because I know that there's too many souls at stake. And we're going to continue to walk the path and tell the truth and continue to punch the devil right in between the chops. Evangelism for God is the channel. Until my next video, my friends, take care. God bless.